Hello, podcast listeners. Welcome to the 20 Mile March podcast. This is episode 23, and I interviewed Anthony Johnson. I just had a really cool conversation with him. What he did was he took a photo of the sunrise in Hoboken, New Jersey, every morning for an entire year. He committed to getting up and crawling out of bed and going and getting his camera gear out and taking a photo as his challenge to help him get started. He was a new father, new dad, and he was tired, and he just decided that this would be a great way to see the morning and also to use his photo equipment. And he turned it into a really meditative practice, and he started an Instagram feed, which then took off on its own. And he became a local celebrity for his hometown, and people would recognize him and say, "Hey, Anthony, I love your photos, and thank you for doing it." And so it's pretty neat. He's got a beautiful website, capturethesunrise.com, and you can find him on Instagram as well. That's at Capture the Sunrise. And then he also has a consulting. He's the chief marketing officer at Spiral Out Consulting. That's Spiral, SPIRAL, outconsulting.com. And you can check him out there. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Anthony Johnson.
Cool, man.
So, hey, Anthony. So this is Anthony Johnson, and welcome to the show, man. So happy to have you on.
Thanks so much. I'm really happy to be here.
We're going to be talking about some of your really cool projects that I was just laughing a lot right now, because I was just like, you did what? And it's so great. Well, one of them that I'm really excited to talk about, and we're going to talk about sort of like mindset and like just taking action as well, is to this project called Capture the Sunrise. Which you told me about, and instantly I was obsessed with the idea, and I thought that was really a beautiful thing. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what that was.
Yeah, sure. So that was a couple of years ago. I was living in Hoboken, New Jersey at the time, and we had just had a daughter, so we had a young baby at home. We weren't getting a lot of sleep. And towards the end of the year, I just felt like I was in this rut where every morning, I would be completely out of it and tired and have to go to work. And, I would wake up and I would just lay there like I just don't want to get out of bed because, I was so tired. And, not to mention I was, kind of feeling like I was on my way out at my job and kind of ready for the next step, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute. But, at the time I was like, I just have to do something. So I started to just force myself to get up in the morning, which is, a very basic thing. But I felt like I needed something more. Like I felt like I needed something to motivate me to get out of bed, to stay up, just get up and be out there. And I've always loved photography, and I was just reading some blog somewhere that this an old Chinese proverb that said, no man who rises before dawn 360 days a year fails to make his family rich. And I thought, now that's kind of interesting. So, maybe there's something here.
So you took it literally.
I took it literally. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Well, so what I did was it was kind of nearing the end of the year. This was in 2014. And, the last week of the year, I just started making plans like, hey, okay, I'm going to just start waking up every morning and taking a picture of the sunrise. And I'm just going to try it for like a week or two and see how it goes. I didn't have any like grand plans for it or anything like that. Just kind of see how it goes. Maybe I'll post my pictures online, see what happens. Yeah. So I did that. And it was kind of cool. January 1st, I went out there, and there was actually this other girl that went outside and took a picture of the sunrise as well. We were in Hoboken, which is right on the Hudson River overlooking New York City. So I would just go out, and steps away from my apartment was the Hudson River. So it was kind of cool. I figured, why not? So I started doing it for a couple of weeks and I felt pretty good. I was getting out of bed. I wasn't laying there and being all sluggish. And
You had a
so,
purpose. It helped
yeah,
you get out of
it
bed.
just, it was kind of cool, and it was
Yeah.
fun doing the photography because photography had always been something I was interested in and I wanted to get better at. So I just said, okay, well, I'm going to do it for a month and see what happens. So I kept going. January, every single day I
Every
did it.
single day.
And, it doesn't sound like anything crazy, doing it for a month. And it was a very low barrier for me. But at the end of January, I was like, well, let me keep going and see what happens. Maybe I'll even do it for a whole year, or, let's just keep going.
Hmm.
So I started posting about it. I made an Instagram account and I had a Tumblr at the time, which eventually turned into my regular blog. And I just started getting all these followers on Instagram. All these random people just started finding me. I didn't tell anybody that I was doing this. The only people I knew that knew I was doing it were my wife and my,
Interesting.
5-month-old daughter. And
It just started
so,
growing organically.
yeah, yeah. And I kind of did that on purpose because, number one, I was almost like embarrassed of it in a way because I was like, I'm doing this kind of silly project or whatever. But
Mm.
as it started to grow, I was like, I'm kind of onto something. Um, and then all of a sudden, in April, I think it was April 17th, I took a photo of the World Trade Center that kind of like put me on the map.
Mm.
I guess my photography had just kind of evolved over that time, and I took what I felt was a really, really good photo, and the internet, Instagram world kind of rewarded me for that, and I got 150 likes on it, and
It
all
went
these
viral.
comments and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, people are really paying attention. And then all of a sudden, all these news agencies started, reposting my photos and
Wow.
all this stuff. So, at that point, I was like, okay, I'm onto something
It's
here.
crazy. Hmm.
So, I just kind of kept doing it throughout the year. And, just within a few months, I mean, I went from, just being this guy who couldn't get out of bed in the morning to being out photographing the sunrise in the morning. And random people would come up to me in the morning on the street and be like, are you Anthony from Capture the Sunrise? Like, I love your
What?
work. Like, you're so inspiring. Like, people would run past me and
Wow.
like wave and be like, I loved your picture from yesterday, or like different things like that. And it was just crazy. And they didn't know who I was. Like, I didn't know any of these people,
You're like a famous
but
local now.
yeah, yeah, it really just kind of blew up.
Wow.
And I started selling photos. I started selling like big canvas prints. And
Mm.
it just really, what really happened is it kind of took on a life of its own where,
Yeah.
you know, I felt like it wasn't just my own motivation that was getting me out of bed anymore. It was like I had this obligation to all these other people that were
Yeah.
following me,
Wow.
and at that
So powerful.
point, yeah, so many things clicked for me.
Hmm.
Um, and I always kind of wanted to, make the point that it wasn't about the photography. It was
Hmm.
about, you know, finding yourself and putting yourself out there and doing something unique. And when you do that, the world kind of just rewards you. All you have to do is just take action and do something.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't tell really anybody that I was doing this project for several months into it. And I really, even when I did start telling people, I only told a few of my close friends and family because I don't know. It was almost, I didn't want, I didn't want anybody to know about it who I felt wouldn't care as much as the people who were following me, as weird as that sounds. I mean, kind of loose acquaintances or whatever. I felt like if I went around just telling everybody that this was what I was doing,
Hmm.
people would start asking me about it and, hey, did you do it this morning? Or I don't know. Like I didn't want to get into like this whole thing. I almost wanted to keep it private between me and the people who I felt like
Appreciated it the
wanted
most.
to, yeah, appreciate it the most. Exactly. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, so
Do you think that was any of your fear was related into that of being judged or someone saying something about it nasty?
yeah, sure. I think there definitely was a little bit of fear there. Maybe it wasn't so much just like being afraid to show what I was doing, as much as being afraid that if I told everybody in my life about it, I would never be able to kind of like escape it, you know. And I didn't want to be under like this magnifying glass with everybody
Uh,
around me
mhm.
constantly.
Okay.
Um,
And maybe pigeonholed into like just this one thing.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
you know, and I really appreciated the fact that people were just finding me kind of organically. I didn't
Yep.
do any advertising. I didn't do any, you know, any kind of publicity. I just kind of wanted to let it happen and just see how many people I could reach, you know, um, just through, you know, the natural way of things,
Yep.
without actually trying too hard to make it something, you know, just see what it could grow to on its own.
How long did it take you to do each photo?
Um, well, that kind of depended on the day, you know, and the
Uh-huh.
weather and different things. But I would say I would be out there anywhere from 20 minutes to 40 minutes on average each day.
Hmm.
And then I would come back and I would edit the photos and I would post, you know, each day. I would also, it was kind of a meditative process for me too, because I would be out there by myself in the morning,
Hmm.
and it's just a really magical time of day. You know, it's
Yep.
very still, and, um, you know, you're watching kind of the light emerge for the day, and all these things would go through my head. So I kind of, my Instagram feed kind of turned into like this long form Instagram blog, if you will, where
Hmm.
I kind of posted like longer blog post style posts, and I would also repost them on my actual blog on capturethesunrise.com. But they um, I would be constantly kind of reflecting on, you know, whatever it was that was popping in my head that day,
Hmm.
and it really helped me reconcile a lot of things internally. Just, you know, when you go out there and you're trying to take a photo every single day and have it be something different, you're essentially taking a picture of the same thing every day, the
Uh-huh.
same view or whatever, but you have to make it unique. I mean, that was part of my goal, was to make every picture unique. You know, I didn't want it to be just the same picture of the same scene every single day. I wanted it. So I would do some pictures where I would, like, you know, lay down on the ground and you'd see the leaves and the grass or something, and then the sunrise coming up beyond that. And there, some
Okay.
would be, you know, I don't know, through a fence or something like that. And
Hmm.
others would be just different areas along the waterfront of different things and different scenes.
Hmm.
And you know, it made me realize that, you know, it's all about taking advantage of opportunities that are in front of you. I mean, the sun is going to come up
Yeah.
at a certain time every day, and you
Hmm.
know that it's going to happen, and you have to be ready, and you have to take advantage. You know, you have to have a plan in your head for how you're going to take advantage of that opportunity that day. You know,
Hmm.
what is the scene going to be like? What are the settings I'm going to need for my camera?
It's all about
What
prep, isn't
equipment?
it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a big thing for me, is that I would actually prepare the night before. You know,
Got
I
you.
would have
So
my
you're ready to
clothes
go.
laid out. I would know what the weather's going to be, so I would know what I would need to wear. I would know approximately, based on the weather, I would know approximately the type of sunrise it was going to be. So I would know which equipment I needed to bring with me, you know, which filters, which lenses, things like that. So, you know, number one, it was all about preparation. And then the other lesson was that no matter how prepared you are, you have to be able to think on your feet in the moment, you know,
Hmm.
because things don't unfold the way you expect them to,
Hmm.
you know. So I would be out there, and, you know, maybe, you know, the clouds would be a certain way, and, you know, I don't have the right equipment, you know, things kind of changed on me and I didn't have quite what I needed. So you have to improvise, or you have to think on your feet, or you have to act really fast because you're set up for one kind of shot, and then the weather changes really fast, the light changes because it's changing so quickly, at that time of day, and you have to make adjustments. And it was kind of like this microcosm of life, really. You know, I mean, you have to prepare, make make plans, prepare for the things that you can prepare for, and then also be able to think on your feet and adjust and adapt to the way things happen.
I love that analogy. Yeah, that's super. Um, so you did it for a whole year, is that right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a day.
No,
Were you sick?
we,
Even
um,
sometimes you still went out there?
there were a couple of days where I was sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I took a couple even just from my bedroom window, if it was really bad or something.
Uh-huh.
But you know, I
It's
think, yeah, it was just the fact of taking the photo. I mean, if I'm in a hotel or something, like, I would still take a photo. It
yeah.
wasn't always a great photo, but
Yep. Yep.
you know,
Did you do a lot of post processing when you were editing it? Did that kind of evolve? And were you just playing? Were you just trying to make beautiful pictures? Is that it?
yeah. I have this philosophy about post production
Hmm.
that, at least for landscape photography and cityscape photography, like what I was doing, I always want the picture to look as true to what the actual
Hmm.
scene looked like in real life.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people, they try to add color or they add contrast, or that, really the thing is like saturation. People add color saturation, or they'll shift the color temperature or things like that to try to get a certain effect. And I really tried to avoid that. Most of the editing and post processing I did was, just dealing with shadows and highlights, really, just to kind of balance out the photo to make it look more like it looked to the naked eye.
Gotcha.
Um, anytime if I did add any other types of effects or anything like color saturation, it would be very, very minimal, and only if I felt like that the photo that I took wasn't as good of a representation. I think I only did that a couple times, but mostly it was really just light, angles, aligning it so that the horizon was even, and getting out all the little dust spots and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
it would take maybe about a half hour or so every day, I guess.
I love how you talked about it as like a meditative practice. Many Native Americans have a practice of having a sit spot where they would do their prayers sort of in the morning at sunrise, and then prayers in the evening at sunset, to thank the Creator for the day and to reflect on what had happened. And at the beginning of the day, it's all about again, like preparing yourself and getting centered so that you are ready to go. And it's really neat that that became your morning meditative practice, and in the evenings, you also had an awareness of what the weather was going to be like, and you just prepped yourself, and you just basically got your gear and your equipment ready, and it seemed to develop this, increase your self-awareness in your ability and in who you are, and that is just like such a big thing for anybody, is to develop more self-awareness of who they are as a person and what they can do and what they're capable of, and to like you said, prepare. And it's all about that preparation in that moment, because that the your life is going to happen, the sunrise is going to happen, and then how are you going to respond to the opportunities? The opportunities are everywhere all the time. We
Mm-hmm.
talk about green glasses and the opportunities of seeing, like one person sees an opportunity to like buy the building, another person sees the same building as maybe like shabby and needing work, and an eyesore. Whereas a different person could see that as like, oh, this is underpriced real estate. I'm going to buy it and turn it into something like a rental unit or a lease it for a commercial space. It's the same thing, but you're just seeing the whole world in a different way, and so it's your perspective. So I think that is such a neat,
Yeah.
powerful thing, and I bet that surprised you what happened, because you just were like, "Oh, I'm just going to take a photo, and like
Yeah.
see what happens," and then suddenly, sort of life worked on you,
Yeah.
and it had a you said and actually you said this a lot, is that it took a life on of its own. It became like a living, breathing being, and you had to nurture it and take care of it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
um so you also talked about how people like go to you and they just want to do stuff that you're doing, and that you have this like creativeness, and or like mad scientist approach to things. You just try things, um, and I think people just need to. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's fear of getting started, or whatever whatever the root is. The root seems to always sort of come down to like fear or judgment for me, for like, I don't know if I should post this, or I want to look a certain way, be perceived in the best possible light.
Hmm.
And so sometimes that's a limiting factor for me, and I think for other people too. Um, yeah, I was wondering what you think about um, your your how you just take action.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, for me, I like to go through, I guess, phases. Like I allow myself to try a lot of different things. And when I say allow myself, I mean, I think a lot of people um, get hung up at the beginning. You know, they never start because they feel like they need to have this grand vision of what some, what some
I try to make
project
it
or
perfect.
something is going to be. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but for me, I like to just let myself do things, to just try some things, on a short-term basis. Like the Sunrise Project started out as a week, and then it was a month, and then I was like, oh, let's see how long it goes. And then,
Hmm.
3 or 4. It wasn't until maybe 3 or 4 months into it that I said, okay, well, I'm just going to keep going for the year at this point. Um, but I've
So you didn't start off saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this for a year." You just like, let's just try it for a week. You start
Yeah,
real
yeah,
gradual, small
exactly.
steps. Yeah,
Because when you do that, it removes the pressure.
yeah.
You give yourself permission to just try it. Just try something. I mean, there's
Hmm.
12 months in a year. you know Come up with one thing that you're going to do this month, and if it doesn't work, then try a different thing next month. So many people ask me, oh, well, I really want to try something. I mean, I've done a lot of different things. Like, um, one year I read a book every week for a year. So I read 52 books in the year, which is, not that crazy considering there are people who read 100 books every year. Um,
But
but
what's
for me, it
the
was a,
average though? Is much lower for the average American. I mean,
yeah, I
like
think so.
it's like
You know,
15 maybe,
yeah,
or
probably.
8. I don't know. It's not that many.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some people don't read any books, or,
That's
two or
right.
three or something in a year.
Yeah.
You know, I just try things and just see how it goes. And if it goes well, then I keep doing it. If not, you have to allow yourself to stop too,
How do you stay accountable for the things like reading a book a week? Do you just post on?
For that,
Yeah.
I just kind of did it myself. I mean, I think that one, I did a few years ago, and I started out the year and I read a few books early on, and I was like, wow, I just read a bunch of books, and maybe I'll just keep going and see if I could just average a book a week. I mean, I don't think I literally read one book a week. It might have been one week. One book might have taken a week and a half, and another book might have taken a few days. Stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I wasn't like stringent about how much time I could take, but I was like, I'm going to read 52 books this year. Average one book a week, and I did it. Um, it's just, so many people, I think, don't know what to do though. Like they're like, you try all these different things. Like, I don't know how you do this. And it really just comes down to putting yourself out there. It really just comes down to making a commitment to yourself. You don't have, it can be a private thing. You don't have to go posting out there to the world.
Uh-huh.
I will say that when you do make certain things public, it kind of holds you accountable naturally.
Hmm.
Um, but if you just pick things that are in your realm of possibility right now. I mean, everybody has skills, everybody has talents, everybody has interests.
Hmm.
Pick one, or even pick two and put them together. Pick unrelated things, and put them together, like waking up in the morning and photography. Like, here's something that I want to do, and here's something that I enjoy, and I'm going to put them together and make something interesting out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Making connections. I feel like so many people are constantly looking outside somewhere. They're searching. They're constantly searching for something to do. Like, what should I, what kind of project should I take on? Like, what should I do? And really, it's not about searching for something out there. It's really more about looking inside of you and seeing and kind of taking a gut check of what's important to you, you know?
Well, and furthermore, like you sort of scratched your own itch because one, you were having trouble getting up in the morning, you were dead
Mm-hmm.
tired, and two, you just enjoyed photography, and that was also sort of a passion as well, something you just enjoyed to do. So you got an excuse to use your equipment and use your photography skills, and it
Mm-hmm.
helped you to get out of bed and get your day started right, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if people can um, ask themselves or look at what they like to do, I mean, there are so many crazy ways now that people are making an income now with like slime. I mean, slime is huge, but there's people that are making millions of dollars, like just like selling and slinging slime, like on like these social media platforms. And there's people that are just like so specific in their niche, and they are just able to make money and make a living from like the wildest, weirdest things that are so specific because the audience is so big and the internet has so much reach. And so there's so many people. There's people that are interested in just in everything, and that you'll find like what people that will appreciate and support the work. Like there's Patreon people that donate money to help support creatives and artists
Mm-hmm.
using that program. And people are doing blogging and all kinds of things with that. Lots of creative people are using Patreon. So yeah, I think that finding that thing that pushes you a little bit, scratches your own itch, and something that you just you're just curious about, like um, and that it's okay to try something and fail. Like it's experiment. Like I think people could
Mm-hmm.
experiment with more things and just experiment and try things out. And especially if you're younger, if you're in your 20s, you should just experiment with everything because you don't have enough life experience yet to really know what you're even good at or what you might even like. There's so much of the in the world that you have no clue of, things you just haven't tried. So it wouldn't be better to like try 50 things in your 20s, rather than five things, and then like picking the one out of those five which you think is the best, when you haven't, maybe it was one of the 45 things that you didn't experiment with that ended up would be your true sort of passion that you would resonate in, that would just launch you into your day every single day, every morning. And it wouldn't feel like work. They say that like if you follow your passion, and it's kind of cliche, but that you'll never work another day in your life, and that
Mm-hmm.
because it just doesn't feel like work. And the thing is that if someone is just truly motivated to do something because they just are, it just fills that inner that need for them, that the passion, the creativity, the they get into a flow or inspiration. Those people are always going to win, because if you hate it what you're doing, you're not enjoying it, then those people, you're eventually going to wear yourself out, because you're just doing basically a job, putting your time in. And those people that are doing it because like, oh, they really resonate with it, it nurtures their being at a deep core level, and they're going to the growth is going to be exponential, and they're just going to it's not even going to feel like it was work or anything like that. Like when your Instagram accounts and suddenly just took off, it was just like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. It
Mm-hmm.
just has its own thing, and it doesn't really feel like work. But maybe it did still feel like work some mornings.
Sometimes when it was raining, especially, it felt like work.
Yeah, the
but
raining would be
but
tough.
those ended up being some of the most fun days, though, being out in the rain.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think if people don't know what to do, or people are kind of stuck at the beginning, I mean, I think if you just kind of make a list of what's important to you, what are your goals in life, what are you good at, and what are you interested in, you'll start to make some connections. You look at those lists, just sit down and really think about it. What's important to you. um, what do you want? What do you want? what are some of your goals? What are some of the things that you want to accomplish? Um, and then just take your skills and your interests and figure out how you can apply them. And like I said, just give yourself permission to try something. You don't have to make a huge commitment. I feel like people are so scared of commitment.
Yeah.
And, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to make a huge commitment. You can just try and just let yourself try and do it in secret if you want, let yourself try something. And, everybody says, oh, like, let the world know about like when you're starting a business or whatever. And, I usually don't do that. I usually kind of hold it very close to me and just let myself experiment with it and then kind of show the world, one year I started recording every food that I ate on an app on my phone. And that was kind of like a weird thing. So I did try to kind of hide that from people for a while, because it's like, who is this weird person, like, always recording everything on their phone. But after a few months, I had lost like 22.5 pounds. And at that point, I was like, wow, I think, what happened at first was I think I dropped like 12 pounds or something. I was like, wow, like I can't believe that that's what happened. Yeah. So I just kind of kept doing it. And, eventually I got down to 22.5 pounds. And I think it was over like 6 or 7 months. So it's not like a short amount of time or anything, but, I think it was a healthy amount of time. And at the end, that was when I told everybody, hey, look, I just lost all this weight. You're never going to believe how I did it, and
I just wrote down what I was eating.
Yeah, exactly.
Again,
just pay attention.
Awareness is what it seems to come down to.
It is. It's
You're
awareness.
Aware of putting what's in your body instead of like eating that bag of Cheetos, and then you're just like mindlessly, and you're like, oh, I eat this. I shouldn't have eaten this whole bag of chips. But if you were like writing it down, you would be like writing it down. One entire bag of chips, like 3,000 calories. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be paying for that one in a long time. But if you're not, like so many people who have morbid obesity, like that's literally what's happening. They're just like they are filling a need where they have so much of that is about that too, like where they don't feel good about who they are, and so they use the food as a sensation to have that sort of joy, to get them that dopamine hit, that it tastes good, it feels good, and that'll help me feel better about myself. And like, who cares? Like at this point, I'm already overweight. It doesn't matter whether I at this point anyway. So it's like a vicious cycle in a way.
Yeah.
So it feeds itself. And then people get like, I know this is a tangent, but then people's knees hurt and hips hurt and things like that because they have like 100 extra pounds, right? And because of that, then it's just harder for them to move and get that cardio that they need. So it's easier to stay in shape when you are like closer to your proper weight. And it just kind of gets harder and harder as you get further and further away from where you should be. So.
Yeah. And like you said, it comes down to awareness and kind of making, once you know that things are starting to get out of hand, or once you identify an area of your life that you feel like needs to change, then that's when you need to figure out, what am I going to try? What can I try? What can I just experiment with for a week or 2 weeks or a month, and see if it works. And if it doesn't, then you can try something else. It doesn't have to be a long-term thing. You're just going to give something a try. I feel like even with like dieting, I feel like a lot of people, I know people that are constantly like every other month, I feel like they're saying, oh, well, I'm trying this new thing. I'm doing this cleanse. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And it's like, after a while, you just know that they're never going to get anywhere because they're always just talking about it and they don't actually ever do it. Like, I have more respect for the people who do things kind of more in private and then show me the results and say, hey, look what I did, rather than the people that just come out and say, make this announcement, everybody, I am going to do this. Those are the people that I feel like I just kind of roll my eyes and I'm just like, okay, when I feel like when you actually do that, that means you're not going to do what it is that you said
Hmm.
you were going to do, because you're making it more of a struggle for yourself than it needs to be. Like you're making like this big announcement, this big proclamation, and now it's like this heavy thing, this like burden that you have to carry because like you told everybody that you're going to be doing this, and you're like you almost like created a struggle for yourself, you
Yeah.
know, like where it's like you're fighting an uphill battle, you're fighting against something, and you don't have to do that. You can just kind of let go and um, realize that, you know, you've identified something in your life that you want to change, and you're just going to take a certain type of action privately to make that change. And once you start to see things changing, that's when you can start letting people in on it, you know, say, hey, like this is what I've been doing and it's like really been helping me, you know. And it, rather than making this big proclamation, making this big announcement or whatever. I think that you need that little bit of private victory, you know, that little bit of private traction um, out of the gate before you can kind of release it to the world, before you can kind of start telling everyone that, you know, how great this thing is that you're doing. You know, I mean, anytime I've really ever done any of my personal experiments, I've never really framed it in such a way that, you know, that I was doing some great thing. It's always just, you know, kind of a personal journey for myself, a little thing that I'm doing to improve an
Yeah.
area of my life, you know.
Well, I think
Um,
you're a humble guy. I feel like you're not the person who wants to stand and be the town crier or be on their soapbox about it. It doesn't seem like it's that. But I will challenge you, and I say that I think you could be louder sometimes. I think some people, especially people who have that good leadership qualities, and like you read all those books and you learned a tremendous amount of things, you're amassing all of this knowledge and information, and it's not useful if it just you don't apply it and it just stays in there for you. And that sometimes I think quiet people could really help the world by being a little noisier, um, especially when they get
mm,
some experience along the way. Like when you've done things, Anthony, you know, like I
yeah.
don't think, I think maybe you need to be like a little bolder sometimes. And that might be something that makes you feel uncomfortable, but it might be that thing that you need to just grow and expand your comfort zone a little bit.
Well, that's a great point. I think that you do, once you reach a certain level, it does become easier to be more vocal about things. You know, like for me personally, with Capture the Sunrise, I've always wanted to, and I still plan to kind of parlay that from what was mostly like a photography and inspiration thing for people and kind of change that into. I've always looked at Gary Vaynerchuk. I've always wanted to be kind of the Gary Vaynerchuk of sunrise photography,
I
like where
love
Gary
that.
Vaynerchuk started out just doing wine videos, right? He
Right.
just started out doing videos where he was tasting wine. That was
Yeah.
his whole thing.
Right.
And he managed to parlay that into becoming someone who people look to as inspiration, you know?
Hmm.
And he used wine as his vehicle to deliver his message and reach his life's purpose. And I want to use sunrise photography as my vehicle to do that. Um,
Hmm.
which I think is kind of a natural progression too, because the sunrise just in itself is kind of an
Totally.
inspiring thing, you know, just in itself. So I think it kind of lends itself well to that path.
Hmm.
So yeah, you know, I do agree with you that, you know, you don't always have to, you know, be doing things in private. Um, but I think that a lot of people are just very kind of vulnerable and unsure of themselves and kind of looking to get started and not really sure how to do it. And I think that's where I'm saying, you know, let yourself get those private victories first before you um, you know, before you go out there and put more pressure on yourself than you need to. You know, if you already feel like you're a little bit unsure and on a little bit shaky ground, you know, don't give yourself the added pressure until you feel like you can handle it.
Great, great. Let's change topics if that's okay. And I want
Sure.
to talk about your where your current action is. And I think it is something in the terms of technology, being a resource person and connecting and getting things done for people. I'm not summarizing it very well.
That's okay.
So I wanted to give you, like, let people know, like, today, what is it that you're building right now as on your entrepreneurship journey?
Well, right now I am focusing 100% on building my consulting business, which is called Spiral Out Consulting LLC. And I do a couple of things through that. The main thing is I kind of work as a virtual CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, for small and mid-sized businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of grown this business. It was kind of a side project for many years while I had a full-time job in corporate America. And about a year ago, I quit my job, bought a house, moved from New Jersey to North Carolina, and
Made the leap.
we made the leap. It was a really scary time.
Yeah.
Just kind of going off on my own.
Did you hate your job? Was it sucking the life out of you? It wasn't that bad.
I wouldn't say I hated my job. I really liked the people that I worked with. I worked with really great people.
Yeah.
I didn't like the work that I was doing. And I felt like I had more to offer than what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, was my source of frustration. I had gone to school for finance, my undergrad,
Mm-hmm.
and very early in my career, I realized that finance wasn't necessarily the thing I wanted to do. I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial.
Uh-huh.
And back, maybe like 2004, I attempted to quit. I quit my job and tried to go off on my own at the time, but I was just too young and naive at the time to make it happen.
Uh-huh.
And then I ended
back.
up, so then I went back. Well, then I became a real estate agent, and I didn't, at least I was kind of entrepreneurial, but it didn't work out. And then I was a mortgage loan officer, and, then the market crashed. And then I then I went back into regular corporate America and got like regular back office type of job.
Blow you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was there for a long time, and I had great experiences there. And I don't regret any of it. I was with the same company for 11 years. And for the last, I would say 6 or so of those years, I had this consulting business on the side, because I realized that marketing was something that I really liked, in entrepreneurship, and that marketing is kind of what drives businesses,
Yeah.
So I went back to school part-time, got my MBA in marketing. And through that experience, that's where I created my consulting business. I had done a few projects through school, and then I just kind of kept going. And it was always kind of a part-time thing. And the problem with, I guess, like moonlighting or having a side gig is that you keep hitting like this ceiling where you are, you're working all the time. You go to work, you come home, and then you work on your side business.
Yes.
And the only way to make more money is you need more time, at least doing what I was doing with like consulting, where you're still exchanging
higher prices.
Yeah. I did that, but you could, doing what I was doing, there was only so much that I can, there was definitely like a ceiling that I kept hitting, and I would start burning out over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And I would keep pulling back, and it was like something had to give, something had to give, where either I needed to quit my job, but I wasn't making enough money on the side to sustain myself and my family, or scale back my job, and that wasn't really an option, or scale back my business a little bit and regain my sanity. So I kept doing that. And I was like in this cycle where I would like keep growing the business, hit the ceiling, and then scale it back. And it just like, after a while, like your head starts to hurt bumping up against the ceiling so many times, And so, when
you took the leap. And you saved some money, had a little bit, and then now you basically, like, what's the saying, like burn the ships. You went
totally burn the ships.
Yeah.
Yep. That was exactly it. I mean, we moved down here to North Carolina about a year ago.
And you moved at the same time.
Yeah. Oh man, we bought a house. We had a kid. Quit my job and started a business within 6 months.
Some of the most stressful things that people go through, and you're doing them all at the same time.
And I just get it over with all at once. No big deal. It was really stressful. It was a roller coaster. I mean, we've
Yes.
We've
Wow.
known each other for
Yeah.
some time now, and it was a roller coaster in the beginning. I was still interviewing for jobs. I wasn't really sure what to do. I
Mm.
had a few interviews with companies that I had considered my dream companies,
Wow.
and what I realized was that my heart just wasn't in it.
Oh,
And I
okay.
just, I withdrew from a lot of interview processes, even when I would get to later rounds.
Mm.
I just knew that, okay, this was going to be my one shot. You know,
Again,
we
it's like
kind of made a clean
self-awareness.
break. Yeah.
Mm.
Again, it's self-awareness,
Yeah. What, like
and
you're asking yourself, like, what is it that I want? Like this dream job is no longer the dream job. I'm still an employee clocking in a certain time and still answering to the boss who's telling me ultimately what to do. And you don't have the creative
yeah,
behind it because you're not.
that's exactly it,
Yeah.
but then being on your own introduces this whole other set of problems. There's, in the beginning there was financial stability concerns, and then there were, there's like just this constant stress and, trying to figure out how to be happy. And, you start to think like, you have a lot of self-doubt. You can be on top of the world and in the highest high you've ever had in your life, and then be in the lowest low you've ever had in your life, all within the course of 6 hours of a day when you're an entrepreneur
Yeah.
and when you're trying to make it happen. And I
Yes.
definitely have had those days, where I'll be right out of the gate, like really excited. And then something will happen and boom, like, I don't know if we're going to be able to pay our bills this month or
Yeah.
something, and
Yeah.
it took a while to get out of that. But really what was the big shift for me was realizing that, you need to stop worrying about yourself and you need to start caring about other people, because
Mm.
nobody cares about you,
Mm.
and nobody's going to
I love that.
show an interest in you unless you show an interest in them.
Mm. So
So rather than worrying about myself and my situation and how am I going to make it and all this, I just started taking more of an interest in other people and other business owners, and really trying to understand what makes them tick, understanding what are their problems, what are their challenges, what do they need help with. I started just sending people, like James Altucher says, send people, write down 10 ideas a day or whatever, and just like send it to people. I would just like find people on LinkedIn and just like send them ideas about their business. Like, hey, I was just checking out your company. It looks like a really cool company. Here's a bunch of ideas for you. Boom, nothing, no ask, no nothing, you know? And I got clients out of that. They would come back and they would say, "Oh, wow, this is awesome. By the way, we're just actually working on this project and I think you'd be
yeah.
perfect for it."
So
When
great.
you do things without an expectation of something in return,
Yes.
you inevitably get things in
Give.
return.
That's right. Give.
But you can't do it with that in the back of your head that maybe something will happen. You just have to really care. You have to really care about other
Mhm, mhm,
people,
mhm. Yep, just
you
give.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and care, and have others' in best interest in mind. Um,
absolutely.
but it's such a beautiful thing. So many people are like asking first, like they're asking for like just buy my course, $497, and
Yeah.
asking for like a sale without really building up, not really giving a whole lot first. So I love that approach where you're just like, here's just 10 things that I think are you've thought about their business clearly. You're
Hmm.
seeing you've basically provided some free analysis, and something that you could charge a fee for, like looking at their business, at basically a free strategy session, if you will. And you're just like, oh, here you go. And then of course they're like overwhelmed. They're like, are like, whoa, like this is amazing. Let me just at least have a conversation with guy, and then you can have a conversation at that point. And like there's a
Yeah.
that's such a nice way that for people to get going, which is easy. It's not that hard, and it just feels good when you do those types of things. It feels good when you connect people up and just share. I mean, I think business should be more fun. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be so hard or so scary. Like, oh, like it's like I gotta try to like do more prospecting, and and it's so hard because I just keep getting rejection. Well, rejection is part of it. That's true. But there's more people that you will resonate with. That uh,
Hmm.
not everybody is going to like your offer, and so much of it is about timing, and as well. Like it won't be right now, but if you make a nice connection now, reach out to that person, and 6 months later, and they be like, actually, now we do have the marketing budget to do
Hmm.
what you were suggesting. So So let's go forward with it now. So you just never know. But I love how you just come from that space of, it doesn't Gary Vee say with that whole jab, 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 like what his first book, like right hook, isn't that one of his approaches,
Yeah.
where you sort of give, give,
Constantly offering value.
yeah,
Yeah. And then you can ask down the road if you want. But what I found is that you don't even have to ask. If you're offering enough value, people will ask you, people will come to you and say, hey, can you help me?
yeah,
You don't have to actually have an offer. Like, there doesn't have to be an ask. There doesn't have to be a, hey, this is what I do. Are you interested? If you flip that conversation and say, hey, I'm really interested in what you do, and here are some thoughts, or here, I would love to just talk to you about what you do. Like what, just
what's
get
the
some insight into their world.
what's the niche that you go after, that you help right now with your
Well,
book?
I have a few different niche markets right now. I'm trying to focus a little bit, but the ones that I work with right now are e-commerce businesses.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of a wide range, so get ready. E-commerce businesses, coaches, um, funeral homes, mortgage loan officers, or actually mortgage brokers, not really loan officers, and anything related to like home services, like contractors, roofing, heating, plumbing, flooring, deck and patio, that kind of thing,
But
landscaping.
don't you think that's too wide? Isn't that hard to really stay, to serve and understand all
It really is, and
those
that
different?
that's something that I'm focusing on right now is kind of figuring out which direction I want to go in with all that, because I've got all these different types of clients right now, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm the most valuable, and in that, um, and that'll be the direction that I take.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in the beginning, sometimes you just have to kind of take what comes to you.
Yeah, get that.
Um,
Yeah,
but what happens inevitably is you start to like kind of burn out. You start
yeah,
to realize that you can't be all things to all people.
right.
When you really start to hone in on your audience and find a market that you really care about, and find business owners within that market that you can care about and that you can talk to, um, and get really good at speaking their language. Maybe you already speak their language. Maybe it's something that you already know a little bit about. Um, that's when you can, not only can you close deals a lot better, a lot easier, but you can charge higher prices because you're looked
Get
at
more
as a specialist in that industry,
industry. Totally.
and a leader and a thought leader.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely something. That's one of the next things for me. This year, well, last year was kind of like a year of stability, really, kind of
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to stabilize my situation and get myself in a good spot. And now this year for me is going to be my year of acceleration. And I kind of
Mhm.
have this vision in my head of like, do you ever, are you ever, I guess everybody's been in this situation where you're driving on the road
Yeah,
and there's a red light up ahead, and then maybe there's a few cars stopped, but
yeah.
there's nobody in front of you in your lane. Maybe there's cars like in the lane next to you, and you're driving, and all of a sudden the light turns green. And
Hmm.
since you're already in motion, you put your foot on the accelerator and you
Right.
just blow past those cars that are just getting started off the
Sure,
line. I
sure.
feel like I'm that car that's in motion right now, and the light just turned green up ahead.
Uh-huh.
And
Love
so I
that.
have this like vision where it's just time to hit the accelerator.
Hmm.
Everything is in order now.
Hmm.
I'm in motion. Things are stable. Things are growing.
Hmm.
Systems and processes are in place, and now it's
Hmm.
time to really accelerate. So one of the ways that I am trying to accelerate is, like you said, by trying to figure out exactly what niche I want to focus on exclusively,
Hmm.
and going after it full force.
Sweet. I love that. Hey, I'd like to wrap this up here. And was there any parting thoughts that you got to get off your mind right now?
I just really want anyone out there that might be listening that's a little hesitant about putting themselves out there. Just don't be afraid to just try something.
Hmm.
Just give something a try. Um, you know, don't be afraid to try to do something unique. You don't have to tell everyone about it. Like I said, just put yourself out there, do something that inspires you, do something that you feel like is going to improve your life. And, you know, amazing things will happen when you put yourself out there. The reason why so many people get stuck in a rut is just because they don't take action. And it really is all just about having that self-awareness of what it is you want in your life and taking the means that you already have inside of you to move towards that. And I think that that's a really powerful thing once you put that in motion. And it's not difficult. It doesn't have to be. Take small bites, small steps. The whole point of your podcast is 20-mile march, a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you will turn around and say, wow, I can't believe what I accomplished, just by taking these small actions.
Sweet. So I want to give people an opportunity one more time. Let's go over your assets and ways that people can reach you. So this is Anthony Johnson, and in your Capture the Sunrise was what website?
You can check out the Instagram is at Capture the Sunrise, or on the website is capturethesunrise.com. You could also email me anytime at anthony@capturethesunrise.com.
And the consulting, go ahead. What's that?
Consulting is Spiral Out Consulting, or spiraloutconsulting.com. I'm actually in the process of redoing my website right now because of the exact thing that we're talking about, trying to niche down. So if it looks a little unkept right now, that's why. But
great.
Those are probably the two main ways to reach me.
Two good ways. Okay.
Instagram's probably the best. That's where most people find me.
That's great. So I'm gonna I'd like to put a couple of photos as well on my blog post as well, that from your Instagram feed there as well. So thanks for sharing your stories with us, and it's been awesome hanging out with you, man. Thank you.
Thanks so much. It's been great being here with you. Thanks a lot, Gabriel.
Yeah. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for being a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber yet, please subscribe so you automatically get the new episodes. We're currently releasing them 2 times a week, and love to have you as a subscriber and a listener. Also, if you could share the podcast with anybody else who you would think that this would be beneficial for them. I'm always trying to add more value and talk to people about entrepreneurship or marketing or chatbots. And so I'm just trying to keep up with all that and be a center for a resource for you guys out there that are hustling and trying to build a life of freedom. So thanks again, and appreciate you.